I had decided to take the darker path, the evil path. I found that more exciting. Now I'm just Satan himself, so not that I really care.
Every high school has that one kid in black, lost in dark poetry and rebellion. For most, it's a phase. The 16-year-old Rod Ferrell, it was a prophecy. In 1996, the small town of Murray, Kentucky, was quiet. The kind of place where teens hung out at the bowling alley, talked about music, and dreamed of leaving. Rod stood apart. He wore trench coats, spoke in riddles, and told anyone who'd listen that he was a 500-year-old vampire named Pyscho. What started as teenage eccentricity soon turned into a cult. He called it the Vampire Clan. To the lonely, he wasn't strange. He was salvation. Rod's magnetism drew in outsiders, misfits, and kids desperate for belonging. Together, they met in cemeteries under the moonlight, slicing their palms, mixing blood, and swearing loyalty. He told them they'd crossed over, that they were now immortal. Behind the fantasy, though, was a deeply unstable teenager, slipping into delusion. By late 1996, Rod's obsession had spiraled. He told his followers they would leave Kentucky behind and start anew in New Orleans, a city of the damned, as he called it. But to get there, they needed a car and money. That's when he turned to 16-year-old Heather Wendorf, a member of his group from Eustis, Florida. Heather had complained about her strict parents. Rod told her he'd save her by freeing her from them entirely. On November 25, 1996, Rod and 3 followers stole a car and drove nearly 800 miles south to Florida. When they reached the Wendorf home, Rod's fantasies collided with reality. He crept through the garage with a crowbar in his hand. When Rod picked it up, the fantasy was over, and something feral took its place. Within minutes, both of Heather's parents, Richard and Ruth Wendorf, were dead. Investigators would later describe the scene as unrestrained rage. To Rod, it was a ritual, the final act of becoming something beyond human. After the killings, he took the family's car, some valuables, and left with his clan, including Heather, who later said she didn't know her parents were dead until hours later. They drove west toward New Orleans, convinced they were free. For a few days, they hid out in a rundown motel in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They used the Wendorf's credit cards to buy food and gas, leaving a digital trail easy to follow. On November 28th, police surrounded their motel. The so-called Vampire Clan surrendered without resistance. What investigators found in their belongings looked like props from a horror movie. Notebooks filled with pentagrams, photos of the group in black clothing, and pages describing blood rituals. But the most chilling part wasn't the evidence. It was Rod's demeanor. He spoke without remorse, like he was recounting a game, not a killing. He bragged about what he'd done, describing the murders as a rush. He told detectives he'd done it for Heather, calling her his Princess of Darkness. The story hit national headlines overnight. To some, it was unthinkable. Teenagers playing vampires and killing in the name of fantasy. To prosecutors, it was simple. A manipulative boy who had weaponized delusion. In 1998, Rod Ferrell became one of the youngest people in U.S. history sentenced to death. 16 years old, condemned for murder. His followers received lengthy prison terms. Heather Wendorf was not charged after investigators concluded she hadn't known her parents would be harmed. When the sentence was read, witnesses said Rod showed little reaction, emotionless, distant, as if watching someone else's story unfold. His mother sobbed quietly in the gallery, but the story didn't end there. In 2000, his death sentence was overturned and replaced with life without parole, following changes in juvenile sentencing law. Over time, his legend faded into infamy. Even behind bars, Rod clung to the myth of Pyscho. In interviews, he called himself a vampire without a body, a spirit cursed to walk forever. But psychologists saw something else. Not an immortal, but a narcissist so desperate for control that he built an entire world what he ruled absolutely. In 2018, he faced resentencing under new rulings giving juvenile lifers a chance at review. By then, he was in his late 30s. Calm, articulate, almost polite, he told the court he had changed, that he felt deep remorse for the lives he destroyed. But in 2020, the judge reaffirmed his punishment: life without parole. As of 2025, Rod Ferrell remains in Florida State Prison. Now 45 years old, the other members of his clan have been released, building quiet lives far from the chaos they once called faith. Rod wasn't a creature of the night. He was a 16-year-old boy who believed his own prophecy and made others believe it too. Boy who believed his own prophecy and made others believe it too.